What do you say, y'all? Welcome back to the journey. So we are actually still getting healthier from this cold. It's just a common cold that we've had. We are feeling a little bit better. As you could see from the beginning, man, we've had a lot of rain, but I'm not gonna let that hold me back, because as you can probably see by the title, we were reached out by a company to review a product, and today is the day better yet, that I'm gonna go ahead and put that together, and I'm gonna bring you guys along with me, and we're just gonna do a full video of putting this bike together, and then taking it for a little test spin, and just letting you guys know what we think about it. And then we'll talk more on that a little bit later. But while the weather is still somewhat nice, I don't know, we do have scattered thunderstorms, as you can see, but I'm gonna try to do the best that I can with the weather that I have, and let's see if we can't get this thing put together. There we go, there's our big box. Let's get it unpacked. Let's see what we got. Okay, so I am gonna try to show you every step of this, because this bike does require assembly. It does not come already pre-assembled. Now, if you have an issue with that, there's always many ways that you can get this put together. If you do not know how to do it yourself, there are videos out there to be able to watch. Viribus actually does have their own video that you can watch to put these together. You can watch this video to put it together. Be greatly appreciated. This bike does come in many different colors. It has different wheel sizes, some of the different things, and I will have all that stuff, you know, down in the description, along with a few things down there to be able to check out. But we got us a seat. Looks like we got a rear axle, and all this stuff is actually packaged in here really well. Try to cut only the tape. I don't want to scratch don't want to scratch the product. That looks like the rear axle assembly. Box full of goodies. I'll open this in a second. Pretty sure that's a lot of hardware and different things. Have the handlebar assembly, it looks like. And this has cables attached to it, so don't just go yanking it out. Let's see if I can't pull out some of these other things. Here we got a wheel. Another wheel. And both the back wheels are different, which I'll get to that in a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're putting the right wheel into the right spot. And our front wheel, and this also has a fender assembly attached to it. The baskets, so this is going to be a basket assembly. Oh, looks like one of the frames to the fenders was by itself. And there's the chain guard. Alright, and if you do need a second person to be able to get this stuff out, then please do so. But I think I can get this out by myself, I do believe. I just want to make sure that my handlebars, because like I said, with the wiring, you want to make sure that everything's coming out kind of together. So I'm going to lift this up out of the box with my handlebars. Like I said, and I'm going to try to get the box out of the way so I can work right here. Okay, one of the first things I did is I went ahead and put the handlebars in, and it's very simple. You just put it into the hole. It's an Allen key. You tighten down and then loosen up one of your Allen keys here on the top. You can move your handlebars into the position they need to be and then tighten that back down. And then I'm also going to go ahead and put my seat in. That way I can flip the bike upside down, get all the rest of the stuff that I need off of it. And then I can also get started on to the other assemblies. So handlebars, seat, flip upside down. All right, I'll leave the plastic on. I'm gonna leave these on for now. Well, I probably take the foam off, but I'm gonna leave the plastic on. Bubble wrap. Okay. Now let's get it flipped over. All right, now I'll take off all the rest of my stuff and get started onto the assembly. Okay, and I do highly recommend getting you a set of snips like this. It's actually our flush trimming snips that you can use for zip ties, right? So if you're trimming zip ties like this, it actually allows them to be flush trimmed. That way they don't hurt you. But also if you're cutting off zip ties, especially near like a rubber tire, you do not want to be utilizing a knife because you might cut the tire. So go ahead and utilize your snips to cut off that zip tie, and you're saving your tire from being slashed. So tips and tricks. Okay, up next is our box of goodies. So we'll go ahead and get this opened up, laid out. Okay, so this box does have the owner's manual in it. I've already set that aside, but it does come with a few zip ties for tying up cables, a brake, rotor, bracket, a bag of tools that you need for putting the bike together. So if you don't have your own tools, the charger assembly. So we'll set this off to the side. You have your pedals labeled left and right. Another bracket. Even comes with a lock. Set that off to the side. You have another smaller chain. Now this is what connects the back, which we'll get to that later. You have a little light for the front. Some little mechanism, I don't know what it is just yet. It looks like it's something to do with the brake. Then a whole thing of reflectors and stuff for your light. All right. So that's all the stuff that's in the box of goodies. So let's do an inventory of everything that we have, and then we'll get to putting this thing together. Okay, so utilizing the book, you want to go through all of your main parts, just verifying that you have everything that you have, that you're supposed to have, which I do. So I've already laid out everything: pins, slats, I have my frame, the tires, I have brake calipers, pedals, chain, front wheel, the rear wheel, brackets, fenders, my light. I've already went through all of my nuts and bolts, tools, all the things. I verified that I have all those things. Okay, so from there we'll go ahead and start assembly. Okay, we're going to start our assembly with the rear axle assembly, putting our tires on. So if you look at the axle, you have what they call a D-shaped axle, so it's basically round, has these flat sides on the other side, not necessarily a D shape in my opinion, but the other side is round with a spacer. So you're just taking off the little the plastic covers that they have here. Okay, getting your nut and your washer set aside. Then on your tires, right, so the tires, you're gonna have one that is a D shape and one that is a circle. So the one with the D shape, right, and then the circle goes to this side, and then the one that is circle and circle goes to that side. So let's go ahead and get those put on, and we'll get them tightened down. Spacer came off. Where did it go? All right, time out. Let me find the spacer. Found it. So you want to make sure that that stays on. Okay, so up next we're actually going to be connecting our rear axle onto the main frame of the bike. So if you have not already, put your handlebar on and your seat on, go ahead and do that. Get the bike flipped over like I have it now, and then you're going to need to remove the axle that they use for shipping. That's just to make sure that the frame is not getting bent or anything like that during shipping. They also put one on the front, so that's pretty nice that they're doing that, just to make sure that it's not getting damaged during shipping. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this taken off. I'm gonna get this brought over and ready for installation. Okay, so I have the back axle on. Actually, I didn't notice that my battery had died, but I'll run you back through it again. So for your chain, you want to lift up on this arm here to be able to get the slack in your chain like that, to be able to put it up and over your front socket or front sprocket for the pedals, right? That gets it up and out of the way. That way you can slide your axle in. Now when you're back here, I just kind of like utilize my knee underneath one of the poles to kind of get it up and in. Now either you can take the bolts all the way out or not, but these here actually go into a square slot that's on your frame. Okay, so these bolts stay onto your axle. These bolts here stay on the frame because it's actually sliding in to this slot here on the square portion of that bolt. Okay, and then you make sure that your washer stays in the side with your nut. Okay, like that. And right now I don't have everything tightened down because I need to get my chain and everything on first. So you put your chain in, plus you see how this is not perfectly aligned in. So I'm pretty sure once everything gets tightened down, it will get semi lined up, but you want to make sure that this sprocket stays in line with that sprocket here, and then you're putting in your chain that is, it's not all together, so it's whenever you're putting it on, you do have to put a pin in, and then you have to, has a little clip that you're putting onto it, right? So like your little links that you have, you're pushing in the pin, and we'll get to that whenever we put this chain in. But let me go ahead and get these snugged down just a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, up next we're going to go ahead and install the small chain. So that's going from this sprocket here to the sprocket on your rear axle. So just be careful when you're taking this out of the bag, because this does have the chain. Okay, it has the chain that's going to be taken apart, like said. All right, you go ahead and start putting that onto your assembly, and then just try to rotate it around, right, until you get to that point where you're able to make the link up here at the top. And I already know that I'm going to need to be doing some adjusting. So once you have your chain here, make sure that these are close enough to where you can take this pin here and you're sticking it through one side of the chain, and then the other side of the chain. Oh, my bike's wanting to fall over. It does help if you have some type of, you know, weight on the handlebars, so it's not wanting to fall down on you as you're putting this together. All right, so now that you have that together, you go ahead and put your plate on, and then you have another little clip, okay, and you're going to put that over both. So you start off at the first one, just kind of push that over that bar. It's kind of hard. If you can't do it by hand, that's fine. Because the kit does not come with needle nose pliers, but it does help. So you just, from this clip that's right here at the back, you just push them together like that, and it locks it all together. Okay. And then from here, we need to go ahead and adjust our tension by loosening off the bolts just a little bit, get everything to move around, get it all tensioned up properly, and then we'll continue on to our next step. And after you get all your bolts and stuff tightened up, go ahead and check your alignment here. It should be straight. I mean, from the factory, it should be fine. Don't worry about if this one is leaning over, because this can be adjusted later when we get to that point, because right now this cable is not even hooked up to anything yet. Okay, so don't be worrying about that. But all right, so that's the rear axle installation, the chain. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next part. And you do want to have just a little bit of slack in that, not a whole lot. Okay. Okay, up next is going to be attaching the front fender stay to the front fender. So that is this bar here with your fender. Now this is going to be the first time that you're actually utilizing some of your bolts, nuts and bolts that you have. Then you also have a plate, a bottom plate, a top plate, and then you're going to be utilizing, so go back to your user manual, because it actually shows pictures of what all those nuts and bolts and stuff look like. And it has you in the description going through G, right? So I already know that it's these here, because it looks just like my picture. I only have 2 of them from my inventory previously. Always check back on your manual. But always check back on your manual. Okay, so to attach this to your frame, so you have a bracket that's here, you have holes that are here. Okay, this have the hole sitting to your left. This here, where the bend is facing you or facing the fender. it's going to go over the top of the fender. Okay. The plate is going to be on the bottom. This portion is going to be on the top. That's covering the bar. Okay. Go ahead and put one of those through. Now this one here is actually threaded, so I don't need the nut, at least not right now. Then with the screwdriver that they provided, you can go ahead and get that started. And you still want this belt to move, so don't tighten it down a whole lot. Okay, you'll see on the bike itself there's already nuts and bolts. And here you can go ahead and take off the axle that was there for shipping. You have the bolts up here on the top. You just take them out and then just get them started by hand. And I do apologize for the sniffling during this video. I am still getting over a cold. But I'm also having to work around the weather, and I want to make sure that I'm getting this done because we are on a deadline. Yeah. But it's okay. All right, so, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave that loose because you can see this does have movement up and down. So once I get the tire installed, I'll make sure that it's not rubbing on the tire or any of those things. But yeah, just get these hand tight the best you can, and then we'll come back and we'll tighten them up later. Okay, so up next we are going to be installing our brake plate up here on the front wheel assembly. Now if you look, there is a number 160 and an arrow for direction, along with on your tire rotation direction, so you want to make sure that those do match. So go ahead and line it up to your 6 holes that you have, and then you're going to be utilizing the black M4 bolts that come with this. These do already have a Loctite installed onto the bolt, so just get those all started by hand. And with the tools provided, go ahead and tighten those down. And you want to tighten these down in a star pattern. So I go back utilizing the long side. That way you're not putting that much torque down onto it. Just tighten that down to where it's just getting snug. And then go over to the one opposite from it. Okay. Just so it's snug. And then either you can go to the one to the left or the one to the right, but you're skipping at least one of the bolts. Okay. Tighten that down, and then directly opposite to that. And then I'm not going to tighten this one down because it's right next to that. So I'm going to skip this one, come to this one. And then opposite to that. Okay, now I'll switch over to the short side. And I'll come in and just put just a little tiny turn just to get that snugged in. And I'll do that all the way around. And you don't necessarily need to worry about skipping these for this step. Okay, so up next is going to be your front wheel assembly installation, which my GoPro overheated, so I apologize for that. But this has a washer that's on here that is keyed, okay? And you want to make sure that that key is filling in that gap right here of where your axle sits, because it does have flat sides on the axle itself. So that is kind of like that D shape, that same D shape of what the back tire was on this side. Okay, so you want to make sure that that is in there like that. And then you have a flat washer, and then your nut. And you may need to make sure that you're pushing down on this bar for your fender to make sure that your axle is sitting all the way down into the socket, because it does hit on this if you're not pushing it down. Okay, because remember, I have not tightened this down all the way. I want to get my wheel assembly installed first to where it needs to be, and then I'll make the adjustments on this to make sure that it's not rubbing on my tire like it is now right here. But once I get it all tightened down, it won't do that anymore. All right, once you have your front wheel and your front fender all tightened down, go ahead and connect your front wheel electrically. And there's two arrows that you're aligning, and there is a line on there that you should be pushing that together until it reaches the line. Okay, that lets you know that it's connected. And then at this point, we should be able to flip the bike over. All right, so far looking good, looking good. Starting to actually look like a bike now. Well, I guess it always looked like a bike, but now it's looking like an assembled bike. And at this point, I would be able to ride it as a normal bike, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to ride it as a powered bike. So up next is the light, and then a few other things that we still need to do, basket, some other stuff. So we're not done yet. Stick around because still got a little bit more to do. Okay, now with this, actually I forgot, I should have put the light on at the same time that I was doing this. And I do actually want to apologize to y'all because I actually did a boo-boo. Now, all of these wires are color coded on the inside, and then they also have labels on the outside. Now, two of these are labeled as a JS, and they look the same, but they're not, because if you look over on the other side, it has an arrow, and as long as your arrows line up, you're putting it to the correct one. Those can get mixed up, but if you mix them up, the arrows do not line up properly. So make sure that if those, because those come connected from straight out of the box, you should not need to disconnect them. Okay. So hopefully whenever you get your bike, that this front brake caliper will already be connected to this cable, and you need to put it through this portion here all the way until it's touching the cable. Okay, and then now you have these little crimps that come in the same bag with all your nuts and bolts. And hopefully you have a crimper. I just have, this is just an electrical crimper for the insulated and non-insulated wire fittings, and I'm hoping that this will crimp it. It should. Okay. And that's all that's doing is crimping that like that, and it does not allow it to come back out. Okay, so with your front caliper, brake caliper, hopefully it should already be connected to the cable like I said. For the bracket, okay, so it is bolted on to this other bracket. Now these bolts may or may not already be attached to this. If they are, you just back them out, and then you'll slide your caliper over your disc. Now this does have on here up, okay, for disc. front. Okay, it's 160s for the front, 140s for the rear. Okay, and that's talking about the disc pad, the disc itself. Okay, so you just line up your holes. Get those going. And you're gonna tighten these down all the way. Okay, and then for your actual caliper itself, you are going to tighten this down, but not very tight. Okay, you just want to snug it, because that still needs to be able to move. And I'll go through on the adjustments on the brakes in a little bit, or towards the end, whenever I've actually read up a little bit more on it, to be honest. Okay, so before we get back to the brakes and getting those adjusted, like I said, I wanted to read up just a little bit more on those. I think I got it figured out. Not that it's anything bad, you know, on the company or their instructions or anything like that. It's just my knowledge, right? So I was just getting a little bit flustered, but it's all good. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on the back fenders. So let's go ahead and get this knocked out. So we got fender 1, fender 2. They're basically the exact same. All the holes are in the exact same spot. All right, so from there you have your little reflectors. So you have a slot and a hole, and then a hole down here. So that bolt is going to go into the slot, and then on the back of your reflector is like a little tab that goes into that hole. Okay, and then from there you'll be putting on the nut. Just refer to your owner's manual for that, of which nut that goes onto. Get that tightened down, make sure it's straight. Looks good. Set that off to the side and do the other one. And then we'll set that off to the side, and then from here we're going to go ahead and attach our brackets. It's going to be this flat part is what attaches to the bike. Okay, so this part is curving out over the wheels, and your reflector is in the back. Okay, so if I'm working on the left hand tire, my reflector will be on the left. I'm making sure that this is facing me, because that's the way that it will be going towards the bike. All right, I'm gonna get my bolts. Once again, refer to the owner's manual for which bolts you are using, along with the washers. Okay, and it looks like that. And then for the other side, okay, you're going to be doing the same thing, but you want to make sure that your reflector is facing the other direction, because it's going on the opposite wheel. You go ahead and set this down onto your tire. You get the hardware recommended from the owner's manual. And I go ahead and just use the holes like that to put my screws in. And then come down to the slot. then flat washer nut. Let's get it started. Okay, then go ahead and get those tightened down. Check, make sure that they're not rubbing onto the tire, and make adjustments as needed. Okay, for both the front and the rear brakes, I'm gonna try to bring you in. So you're bringing your cable, right? It comes in through that nut, and then you have to loosen this Allen right here, and it kind of backs off a nut. So you're running your cable through that little arm right here and underneath this arm, okay? And then you tighten that back down. So you're pulling out just enough cable, which what I did was go ahead and leave it connected up front. I pull this tight until I can see movement in my handle, and then I push this up just a slight bit like this, and then I tightened it back down. Obviously it's a lot easier with two hands because right now I'm holding the camera, and then tighten it back down, and that's giving me enough to where whenever I squeeze my handle, right, I squeeze my handle, it's allowing my brake to close. And I will adjust that as needed. Obviously, I did have to adjust this. So my rear brake caliper, well, all this was already pre-assembled, and this was actually in the wrong location. It was rubbing a little bit on the hardware. So all I had to do was loosen up this Allen down here. I moved it over maybe a 1/16 of an inch, if that, and then retighten this down, and now it no longer rubs. So I will continue to check that too. But anyway, it's looking great. Onto the basket. So your basket should already come basically pre-assembled. So you're just opening it like this. So everything's already hinged together. And then it has two spots in a corner that you're taking your little locking pins. You're pushing those in to that area. I'm just gonna hold that one over there for now. Okay. So you get that, and then it has these other little nut looking things, little plastic pieces, and those get pushed in to lock it all in place. And then there's your basket ready for installation. Easy peasy. Okay, go ahead and remove the hardware that's already installed onto the bike. When it comes, set your basket in place. Then you have these locking bars. They go the same direction as your frame. And just get everything tightened down by hand. Make any last adjustments that you would like to make of what you think looks good of its location, and then tighten it down the rest of the way. Okay, so up next after that, you have a bolt here, putting on the chain guard, the right pedal, left pedal that goes on. Those are labeled, so you have an R for right, an L for left. So I'll go ahead and boom, here it is next day. Bike's all together. So the pedals, right, whenever you're putting those in, make sure that the left goes on the left, your left foot, right goes on the right foot. Everything turns because it has opposite threads, right? But it should turn towards your front wheel. But I got everything in, all the caps put on to the bolts. Now the instructions does not tell you anything about this cover here, but you can take the handlebars back out, put that cap on, and then put your handlebars back in, and then put your little rubber cap in. Okay, but that is not, it did not show in the instructions about that, but I already knew where it went. Okay, now this does have a bracket for a basket to go into the front, I was not provided with one of those. So what do I think about the Viribus construction or putting this bike together? Okay, so my thoughts on this bike, and I do apologize if there's a little bit of wind. Hopefully I can edit that out. But if you have never built a bike, or if you've never put a bike together, I do highly recommend finding somebody that does. Now, if you are mechanically inclined and you've never put a bike together, you'd be able to easily follow the instruction manual to put this bike together. So with that being said, if you've never put a bike together and you're not mechanically inclined, I would recommend you, when you buy this bike, to also find a bike shop that will put it together for you, or find a buddy or a friend or someone else, right, to be able to do that. Now, if you like a challenge, then go ahead, but the instructions on this bike are excellent. They have pictures, it has great wording, has great commentary, it has all those things in there. You can always go back on this video and watch it. Viribus also has their own video for installation for putting this thing together. I didn't think that video was all that great, but they do show everything that you need to be able to put this thing together. So with that, with this video, with the booklet, I think you guys will do great in putting this bike together. So all that's left to do, well, you've probably seen in some of the pictures that I've provided, you know, on some of our other social media accounts, is I've already taken this for a ride. It's already gotten muddy because obviously we've had a lot of rain here lately, and our driveway is quite dirty, our yard is quite dirty. So I've already gotten this thing a little bit on the muddy side, but that's okay. This is actually going to be a work bike. This is not going to be for pleasure, because this thing actually has weight capacity that it can carry. And I'll put all this stuff down in the description so you guys can go check out. But this thing is going to be a workhorse here on the property. You will be seeing it in other videos. We'll be utilizing the basket for carrying products, even taking trash out, because we plan on building another trash receptacle to the front, so where we can actually have a trash truck come and get our trash instead of us having to take it to the dumpsters each week, right? But for stuff like that, I think that this bike is going to work out great for that. I think you guys would like to see this out on the road, so let's go take it for a ride and give you a good review on this bike. So let's go, follow along. All right, so overall, I think it's a really good bike. So there are going to be some things that you're going to have to check if you're putting this bike together yourself, and I will point those out. I don't think that's anything on the company or whatnot. It's just, it's all part of, you know, having a bike and needing to do a little bit of tweaking and peaking, if you know what I mean, of just adjustments, right? The little fine adjustments that always has to happen on any bike that you get. It does not matter. It's just little things that you have to check, and I will point those out. But anyway, let me finish my ride. I'm gonna get back to the shop, and then we'll point those things out. Okay, so made it back over here to the shop. That ride was fun. Now, some of the things that I had noticed whenever I was putting this together, stuff that was already together from the factory, was for this gear sprocket and everything here. This one, it was not straight. I actually had to loosen this off and straighten that out. And that's fine. That's stuff that you got to check, because if it's not straight, it does end up throwing the chain. So, and you also have to make sure that this sprocket is dead in line with that other sprocket. So that's all adjustments, things that you have to do yourself. This brake disc here was actually too far over. Once again, this also was already installed, so I had to adjust this one as well. For me, right, I think the fenders, they do rub a little bit. Obviously there is some adjustment I can do. It's, I don't know, I guess with one person it is kind of an interesting task trying to keep the fender up. I'm pretty sure there's like rubber spacers or stuff that you can put in there when adjusting this. For me, with this being a work bike, it doesn't matter to me if they rub or not. But if you don't want them to do that, you're probably going to be spending a little bit of time trying to adjust the fenders. But that's not anything on the company, right? Any of these things I'm pointing out, nothing on the company. So far, this bike is like amazing from what I can see. The construction of it, the packaging of the box, all those things was just amazing. Even the owner's manual, you know, going through this thing is just amazing. It has color pictures, all this stuff on there for assembly. Like I said, just going through this thing, this book is very well written. It has very good graphics and all the stuff, you know, utilizing that for putting the bike together. Now, I will have all of the coupon codes, all the links that you need down in the description. I will also post to the top comment. I will pin to the top comment within this video. So make sure you're getting down there, you're checking them out. It's greatly appreciated. And man, how cool is this? That we got a powered trike for a workhorse around the property. So sometimes you might be on a budget, you can't afford a four-wheeler, you can't afford a side-by-side. This is a great next option to those things, to have something that can haul products around your property. That's what we're going to use it for. So thanks again to Viribus for reaching out, letting us review this product and be able to get it out to you guys to help you with putting it together. Just a quick review, me riding it around, showing you that that's a great bike. Okay, it is different than riding a normal bike if you've never ridden a trike before, right? And with this, during my assembly, I did make a mistake going through that I did not say in the assembly portion of this video. But if you caught it, the first person that lets me know what mistake I did during the construction of this bike, I'm going to give away a free IFF t-shirt from our store, right? You can go in, you can choose any shirt that you would like, the size, color, it doesn't matter. The first person that comments to me what mistake that I made during the assembly of this bike, then you get a free shirt. But anyway, that's what we got for you guys. All right, I definitely appreciate you for following in on this one. Got another video here, the playlist here, just to continue to follow this year's journey. Icons at the top make it easy to subscribe both here and to the side channel. And then last but not least, always thank a veteran at every chance you get, not only on Veterans Day. We'll see you on the next one. Later, y'all. All right, let's go for another ride.